The Girl Without Hands. A miller had, little by little, fallen into poverty until he had nothing left but his mill and a great apple tree standing behind it. One day he went into the forest to gather wood, and there an old man stepped toward him, a man he'd never seen before, and said, "Why do you wear yourself out chopping wood? I will make you rich if you will promise me what stands behind your mill." What else could that be but my apple tree, the miller thought. So he said yes and signed it over to the stranger. The stranger laughed, a scornful laugh, and said, "In 3 years I will come and collect what is mine." And he went on his way. When the miller came home, his wife met him at the door. "Tell me, husband, where has this sudden fortune come from? All at once, every chest and cupboard in the house stands full, and no one brought it in. I don't understand how it happened." The miller said, "It comes from a stranger I met in the forest who promised me great treasure. In exchange, I signed over whatever stands behind the mill. We can spare the apple tree for that." "Oh, husband," said the woman, turning pale, "that will end badly. The old man was the devil, and he did not mean the tree. He meant our daughter. She was standing behind the mill just then, sweeping the yard." The miller's daughter was a beautiful and pious girl, and she lived out the 3 years in the fear of God without sin. When the time was up and the day came that the evil one meant to take her, she washed herself clean and drew a circle of chalk around herself. The devil arrived very early, but he could not come near her. Furious, he said to the miller, "Take away all her water so she can wash herself no more. Otherwise I have no power over her." The miller was afraid and did as he was told. The next morning the devil came again, but the daughter had wept upon her hands, and her tears had washed them, and they were perfectly clean. Again he could not approach her. Now he raged and said to the miller, "Cut off her hands, or I can do nothing with her." The miller was horrified. "How can I cut off the hands from my own child?" The evil one threatened him. "If you do not do it, you are mine, and I will fetch you myself." The father grew afraid, and in his fear he promised to obey. He went to his daughter and said, "My child, if I do not cut off both your hands, the devil will carry me away, and in my terror I have promised him that I will do it. Help me in my trouble, and forgive me the wrong I do you." She answered, "Dear father, do with me what you will. I am your child." And she laid down both her hands and let them be cut off. The devil came a third time, but she had wept so long and so hard upon the stumps of her arms that they too became entirely clean. He had to yield. He had lost every claim on her. The miller, who had won such wealth through her, told her he would keep her in comfort and honor for the rest of her life. But she said, "I cannot stay here any longer. I will go out into the world. There will be pitying people enough to give me what little I need to live." She had her ruined arms bound behind her back, and at sunrise she set out and walked the whole day until night came. She came then to a king's garden, and by the light of the moon she saw trees inside it, heavy with beautiful fruit. But she could not get in. There was water all around it. And because she had walked the whole day and eaten nothing, hunger tormented her, and she thought, "If only I were inside, that I might have some of the fruit, or I will starve." She knelt down and called upon God and prayed. At once an angel came and closed a sluice in the water so that the moat ran dry, and she was able to cross. She went into the garden, and the angel went with her. She saw a tree hung with fine pears. To still her hunger, she ate one of the pears right off the tree, but no more than one. The gardener saw it all happen, but because the angel stood beside her, he was afraid and thought the girl must be a spirit. He said nothing and did not dare to cry out or speak to her. When she had eaten the pear, she was satisfied and went and hid herself in the bushes. The next morning, the king, to whom the garden belonged, came down and counted the fruit and saw that one pear was missing. He asked the gardener what had become of it. "Last night," the gardener said, "a spirit came in. It had no hands, and it ate one pear straight from the tree with its mouth." "How did the spirit get across the water?" asked the king, "and where did it go afterward?" The gardener answered, Someone came down from heaven in snow-white clothing and closed the sluice and held back the water so that the spirit could cross the ditch. It must have been an angel. I was afraid and did not question it or call out. When the spirit had eaten the pear, it went back the way it came. The king said, "If that is how it is, I will keep watch with you tonight." When it grew dark, the king went down to the garden and brought a priest with him, whose task it was to speak to the spirit. All three sat down beneath the tree and kept watch. At midnight the girl crept out of the bushes, went to the tree, and again ate a pear from the branch with her mouth, and beside her, as before, stood the angel in white. Then the priest stepped forward and said, "Do you come from God or from the world? Are you a spirit or a human being?" She answered, "I am no spirit. I am only a poor human creature, forsaken by everyone, but not forsaken by God." The king said, "Even if you are forsaken by the whole world, I will not forsake you." He took her home to his castle, and because she was so beautiful and pious, he loved her with his whole heart. He had a pair of silver hands made for her and took her as his wife. After a year, the king had to go abroad to war. He entrusted the young queen to his mother's keeping and said, "When her time comes and she is brought to bed, care for her well and write to me at once." In time she bore a beautiful son. The old mother wrote a letter at once and sent a messenger to carry the joyful news to the king. But the messenger, weary from the long road, stopped to rest beside a stream and fell asleep. Then the devil came, for he had never stopped seeking to do the pious queen harm, and he exchanged the letter for another, which said that the queen had brought a changeling into the world. When the king read it, he was horrified and deeply grieved, but he wrote back all the same. They were to care for the queen and the child and tend to them well until he returned. The messenger started back with this reply and rested again at the very same place and fell asleep again. And the devil came a second time and once more exchanged the letter. This one commanded that the queen and her child be put to death. The old mother was horrified when she received it. She could not believe it and wrote to the king once more, but each time the devil substituted another false letter for the true one, and the last of these commanded, as proof the deed was done, that the queen's tongue and eyes be sent back. The old mother wept that such innocent blood should be shed, and in the night she had a deer secretly brought to her and slaughtered, and cut out its tongue and its eyes and kept them. Then she said to the queen, "I cannot kill you as the king commands, but you may stay here no longer. Go out with your child into the wide world and never come back." She bound the child upon the mother's back, and the poor woman went off, weeping. She came into a great wild forest, and there she sank to her knees and prayed to God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to her and led her to a small house, on which hung a sign, "Here everyone may live free." Out of the little house came a snow-white maiden who said, "Welcome, Lady Queen," and led her inside. She untied the little boy from her back and held him to her breast to let him drink, and laid him then in a small, beautifully made bed. Then the poor woman asked, "How did you know that I was a queen?" The white maiden answered, "I am an angel sent by God to care for you and your child." So she stayed in that house 7 years and was well cared for, and through God's grace, on account of her piety, her severed hands grew back. At last the king came home from the war, and his first wish was to see his wife and his child. The old mother began to weep and said, "You wicked man! Why did you write to me that I should send 2 innocent souls out of this life?" And she showed him the 2 false letters, and told him she had only done as she believed he commanded, and she showed him the tokens, a tongue and a pair of eyes. At the sight of them, the king began to weep bitterly for his poor wife and his little son, until the old mother took pity on him and said, "Be at peace, she is not dead. I had a deer slaughtered in secret in the forest and took these tokens from it. I did not harm your wife. I bound the child on her back and sent her out into the wide world and made her promise never to return here because you were so angry with her." Then the king said, "I will go as far as the sky is blue, and I will not eat or drink until I have found my beloved wife and my child again." And so the king wandered for close to 7 years. He searched among every rocky cliff and every cave, but did not find her, and came to believe that she must have starved. He neither ate nor drank in all that time, but God sustained him. At last he came to a great forest and found in it the small house with the sign, "Here everyone may live free." The white maiden came out, took him by the hand, and led him inside, saying, "Be welcome, my lord king," and asked him where he had come from. "I have wandered now nearly 7 years," he answered, "seeking my wife and her child. I cannot find them." The angel offered him food and drink, but he would not take it. He wished only to rest a little. He lay down to sleep and covered his face with a cloth. Then the angel went into the chamber where the queen sat with her son, whom she had named Sorrowful, and said to her, "Go out with your child, your husband has come." She went to where he lay, and the cloth had fallen from his face. She said, "Sorrowful, pick up your father's cloth and cover his face again." The child picked it up and laid it back over the sleeping man's face. The king, half waking, heard this and let the cloth fall once more, on purpose. At that the little boy grew impatient and said, "Dear mother, how can I cover my father's face? I have no father in this world. I have learned to pray, 'Our Father who art in heaven.' You told me my father was in heaven and that he was God. How should I know a strange, wild-looking man like this? He is not my father." When the king heard this, he sat up and asked who she was. She said, "I am your wife, and this is your son, Sorrowful." He saw her 2 living hands and said, "But my wife had silver hands." "The gracious God," she answered, "has let my true hands grow back." And the angel went into the chamber and brought out the silver hands and showed them to him. Only then was he certain, beyond doubt, that this was his dear wife and his beloved child. He kissed her and was glad and said, "A heavy stone has fallen from my heart." Then the angel of God gave them a meal together once more, and they went home to his old mother. There was great rejoicing everywhere. The king and queen held their wedding a second time, and they lived on, contented to their blessed end.